Was it wrong to consider inflation transitory? I mean, these price spikes seem like they're going to be with us for a while.
We have to address the fact that we got to deal with the fact that folks are paying for gas, paying for groceries, and need solutions to it.
Well, that certainly sounds like a comprehensive plan. Vice President Harris then goes on to blame soaring inflation on dock workers and the country's supply chain crisis, as well as Congress not passing Biden's $5 trillion in new spending bill, Build Back Better, which, of course, as we all know, costs $0, right, Joe Biden, and will help reduce inflation. What a joke. Joining us now to weigh in is my good friend, former White House acting chief of staff and former South Carolina Congressman, the great Mick Mulvaney. Mick, listening to Kamala Harris talk about her solution for inflation, does that give you confidence?
No, it doesn't, John. By the way, Happy New Year. Thanks for having me. None of that should give anybody confidence. Keep in mind, I've done many of those, prep for many of those types of interviews, either interviews of myself or people interviewing me or me prepping somebody else, the president, the vice president. That question shouldn't come as a surprise. You go back and listen to her answer. This is someone who is completely unprepared to answer the most basic questions in a set-piece interview. It's not somebody who grabs you as you walk down the hallway. And I remember press used to grab us all the time and try and get us off the cuff. That's not what this is. This was a set piece with another news outlet where they knew what the questions were going to be. She simply wasn't ready. And my guess is this means either she's not doing the prep work that's necessary to do something simple like an interview, or she really doesn't understand inflation. Neither of those things should give anybody confidence. I just saw Robert O'Brien's interview. Great piece. Good to see Robert again. And what he says is, what he said that stuck out of my mind is that the foreign leaders watch everything that we do. And when our vice president gets on and gives an answer as incompetent as that, it hurts us overseas as well as domestically.
And Mick, you know this, the White House does polling all the time, and inflation is a huge issue with the American population. One of the reasons why Joe Biden's poll numbers are so low is people are having a hard time putting food on the table and filling up their vehicles. So if you're asked the question, a question that you were probably prompted on, you think you'd have a better answer than saying it's a supply chain issue and we've worked with our ports to work more than 8 hours a day and 5 days a week and pass Build Back Better, which is way more spending. How on earth does that deal with inflation? I mean, the answer was, frankly, it was stupid. I mean, it's like she hadn't prepared at all, or she didn't have the ability, if she was prepped or prepared, to actually answer a very simple question that any politician, again, any House member can answer that question.
It may be that she doesn't know what creates inflation. And look, it's been a long time since we had inflation in this country. It's been the late 1970s, early 1980s. And she doesn't understand that it's too much money chasing too few goods, that government spending can prompt inflation, that re-regulating the economy, undoing what President Trump did in deregulation, can hurt the ability to bring goods and services to market. And maybe she just doesn't know that or doesn't understand that. She really does believe that bills don't cost anything, as you mentioned Joe Biden said, or that passing a big spending bill can actually lower inflation. It may be they actually believe those types of things. Face it, Joe Biden was never elected as a great intellectual. He was elected because he was a nice guy and a deal maker, and he wasn't Donald Trump. But it may be that he's just hired a bunch of people who aren't smart enough to run a government.
And, you know, Mick, I disagree with a lot of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's policies. But I want America to be successful like you do, and I want them to understand the cause of the problem and try to fix it so people's lives get better. I mean, that's what getting involved in politics is all about, and when you don't understand the basics, you can't fix the problem. But I want to get your take on this because Democrats across the country are pushing for more censorship online, and they're demanding social media companies block what progressives consider to be misleading or hate speech. Is this simply code for silencing dissent of conservative speech? Is that what's happening here?
It is, Sean. Real quickly to go back on Kamala Harris, what you saw really in that last answer is someone who has done no work and no thought on fixing the problem. She really did think that fixing the ports would solve the problem. But that probably is more worrisome as anything that we've seen in the last 24 hours of administration. But on social media, look, this is what we would expect. The left expects corporate America to do their bidding. And look, I'm no defender of big tech. I do think they target conservatives. In fact, I know they target conservatives. It took me several months to get my little blue check mark on Twitter, and we actually had to try and pull strings to do that. If we hadn't done that, I would not have gotten that little certification simply because I was a conservative. That kind of treatment is real. But it shouldn't surprise anybody that the Dems are reaching out. You saw, I think it was Bernie Sanders reached out to Warren Buffett earlier this week, and asked if he was going to intervene on behalf of the unions at a Buffett-owned corporation. This is what the left does. They hate corporations, but they want to use them as a means to the end, and that's what you're going to continue to see. I wish that the social media companies would simply be much more straight down the middle, defend the truth, but defend free speech at the same time, and not pick sides as they've done in the last couple of years.
Well, it always goes back to who decides what is misinformation, who decides what is hateful. And when you have left-wingers that make those decisions, obviously this shuts down conservative speech. And frankly, a lot of these things are unknown. We should be debating, the coronavirus and what are the best treatments and what are the side effects of the vaccine. We were called misinformation when we said, hey, the Russia collusion argument, this isn't true. Well, they would have said, well, that's misinformation. You can't say that online. It's anti-American, and it shuts down debate, which gets us to a better place in America. But Mick, you are probably one of the most insightful people that I know. You are able to predict things that most people cannot. So as we end out 2021 and go into 2022, give me your prediction for the new year.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot. I know I've talked about it, and I'm trying to take this one seriously. Here's my prediction for 2022. Trey Gowdy's going to get a new hairstyle. Has to. What he's got now simply is not working. You and I both know that no one works harder at making their hair look bad than Trey Gowdy does. I asked him one time, I said, what are you shooting for with this new hairstyle, Trey? And he says, well, Mick, it's sort of a Thomas Jefferson thing. And I said, well, Trey, it looks more like a Millard Fillmore kind of thing, which, of course, is ironic because that's his real name. It's Millard Watson Gowdy III. That's why he goes by Trey. So I think you're going to see new hairstyles out of Trey Gowdy in 2022. Don't know what you think about that, but that's where I'm putting my money for next year.
I got to tell you what, I don't know how he's able to so creatively do his hair in so many different ways. But and just so the viewers know that Mick and Trey are good friends, both members of Congress from South Carolina, ran in 2010 together. And it's good fun to make light of our good friend Trey Gowdy. Mick, he does have hair. That's right. That's right. He has hair. You do not. But with that said, hey, listen, have a great New Year, all right?
Thanks. It's great to see you. Say hello, family. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.